Hey friends, today's video will be a quick review of the Gamesir G7 SE controller from the perspective of an FPS player. For those new to my channel, I cover Destiny 2 for now. That could change in the future, but I imagine you might be here for a generic G7 SE review, so I'm going to do my best to weave between that and the reasons I picked up this controller in the first place. Well, to start, my old controller was an old Xbox Elite Series 1, the original. And these break every other month for various reasons, but it was mainly the bumper, and I always got it replaced with warranty. But eventually the warranty wore out, as well as the controller is pretty zombified. I have a rubber band holding the bumper in, the thumbsticks are worn out. I actually replaced the thumbsticks again, and here we are today, where I am starting to shop for new controllers, which spurred this review series. One thing of note about the Xbox Elite controller is it has 4 paddles, which is very nice, as you can see in the background gameplay, for doing these combination moves in Destiny 2, where a normal controller simply does not have enough buttons to be able to perform the input instantly. However, 4 paddles is not a deal breaker if the G7 SE and other controllers like it can provide me a solution to something I have never found about Destiny 2 on console. And that problem is the dead zones inherent to Destiny 2. If you take a default controller, plug it into a console, and start barely tensioning the right thumbstick, your character in-game will not move until your stick is about 20% tensioned. This is a problem that I've always wanted to fix, and something that I'm starting to shop for on both the hardware and the software side to specifically work with console. I'll go ahead and rip the band-aid off and say that the Gamesir Nexus software that came with the controller did not provide the solution. And not gonna lie, I wasn't hopeful either, because it's a very niche problem to fix. So I wouldn't subtract any points if I was keeping score in a review, because I don't expect any controller to do that. It only gets bonus points if it does that. Moving on, let's talk about what this controller brings to the table, which are the Hall effect sticks, which should help me have a more precise right stick, as well as prevent stick drift long term, so I don't have to constantly replace the controller. However, that's not going to be that big of an issue if I did have to replace it, because it clocks in at a price of 45 USD, which is crazy cheap. This is possibly the most premium controller per dollar that I have ever seen. I'll repeat myself for posterity, since you probably don't believe your ears. I didn't reach out for a review copy because this was only $45, and I have an Amazon affiliate link below if you do want to help me make that $45 back. However, that was a risk I was willing to take, because if I ended up not liking the controller, I would just relegate it to my travel controller and not be afraid about beating it up. I put one solid play session in with this controller and can already report that this is not going to be my main controller, but it's not because the controller is bad, it's because I'm addicted to using 4 paddles. Unfortunately, the G7 SE only has 2 back buttons, which feel great. If there's ever a game I play that only needs 2 of them, I will probably consider picking this back up. Anyway, I will continue reviewing more controllers until I find the best controller for Destiny 2. I will say this will get the job done, so let's go over the software for exactly what my settings were. The first thing I did was change the back buttons to the B button and the A button, even though I am going to claw. Then, since I'm not using the face buttons, I changed the B button to the directional pad so I can have an additional action in Destiny 2. Now onto the sticks. I changed the functions to radial, which I'm not sure improves it that much or if it's even noticeable, but if it helps, I'll leave it on. Then I made the sticks as sensitive as possible, and here we are. So my Elite controller has trigger stops. This has something even better. It has a hair trigger function, which is either on or off, just like a digital input, so I can have my gunfire as fast as possible. It is so sensitive, though, that sometimes I accidentally make my character jump because I'm squeezing the controller a little bit too hard, and I don't have the dexterity yet to hit the buttons individually. I kind of just like clamp all of them down at the same time. So depending on the controller's shape, I have to get used to it. Once I'm a couple controllers into this review series, we'll be able to compare them against each other, so this is why this first review isn't that interesting. As I start to get other controllers under my belt, some with gyro capabilities and even more buttons than 4 paddles, we'll be able to compare them against each other and see exactly what they enable for someone who has way too much time on their hands to get good at an FPS game. So enjoy this background footage. I'll leave it here, and we will revisit this controller if it ends up being my favorite after all of that. And I still want to say it again, $45. $45.